Madam Secretary, General McConville, thank you for being here. Thank you for your service. Let me just start with one of our priorities in Missouri, which is to ensure that all of our service members have the best possible quality of life. And one of the challenges that we're facing in Missouri at Fort Leonard Wood is to make sure that the homes that were built there in the 1960s that are overdue for replacement get replaced in a timely fashion, and that we're able to provide quality housing. So can you just give us an update on what the Army is doing to facilitate replacements for these homes? And Madam Secretary, we'll start with you. General can add as you see fit.
Certainly, Senator, thank you. And General McConville probably can speak to the details at Fort Leonard Wood better than I. But as you know, we have reorganized how we're dealing with privatized housing to basically make a four-star general responsible. And we meet now weekly to go over the family housing at each of our major installations. We now have 37 out of 44 installations that have privatized housing have fully implemented the Tenant Bill of Rights. We expect to have the other 7 compliant with the Tenant Bill of Rights by the end of July. So this is something that we're working on very, very hard. I would ask General McConville to speak directly to the Fort Leonard Wood installation.
Yeah, I'll just from a priority standpoint, the reason we came out was people as the #1 priority was that kind of drives where the resources are going to go, and then within the people portfolio, housing is the #1 priority, and within our a couple things that we've been working as the Secretary talked about is we have privatized housing. We're putting billions of dollars back into that. Probably about 25% of our housing right now needs to be fixed. And so some of that is privatized, and we are working with the privatized housing, and they have raised money to put additional money in to improve that housing. The Army housing that the Army owns, which is about 10 to 15%, we had historical housing. It wasn't historical housing, it was old housing. And to me, old is not historical. You have a 100-year-old house, it needs to be fixed. And for a while there, we were trying to fix it at historical rates, put old windows back that look like old windows, those type of things. So we've got an exception to that, so we're putting more money into that. We're also putting additional funds into housing to get after that because we want quality housing. I'll need to come back to you on precisely what we're doing there, and we'll come back to you on that.
Great, thank you very much. Thanks to both of you. Thank you, General. We'll follow up with you on that. Let's shift to our pacing theater, if we could. General, you released the Chief of Staff of the Army paper #1 this past March. One of the things the paper said that caught my attention is, I'm quoting you here, our adversaries will attempt to achieve their strategic goals without fighting or to seize their objectives quickly as a fait accompli. I want to commend you for highlighting that scenario in the paper. Along those lines, give us a sense of how you see the Army's long-range precision fires and their enablers being able to help deter, or if we have to, defeat a Chinese fait accompli in Taiwan.
Yeah, I think when we talk about long-range precision fires, and when you think about the threats that we could face as far as deterrence, many of our strategic competitors have set up what we call an anti-access air denial capability with an integrated air and missile defense capability. So you need something that can penetrate that and suppress that. And by having land-based long-range fires, you start to provide options to the COCOM commander to do that. Part of our portfolio in the long-range precision fires is also having a land-based anti-ship capability. So then again, you have the ability to hold competitive ships at risk, and they all come together to give that combatant commander multiple options and really to present multiple dilemmas to those who may be wishing us hard. And then by doing that and having those capabilities 24/7, you can deter certain types of behavior from a strength standpoint.
Let me just ask you as a follow-up to that. TRADOC's December 2018 publication, which was called The Army Multi-Domain Operations in 2028, stated that the Army must demonstrate the ability to immediately deny a fait accompli in order to deter an adversary like China. You still agree with that, I assume?
I do.
Along those same lines, Madam Secretary, when you and I visited last month, you highlighted, I thought this was really good, one of the things you said was that China would like to pull off a fait accompli because it would be much harder for us to dislodge them from Taiwan than to stop them from getting to Taiwan in the first place. Can you just elaborate on that? I thought that was such a crystal clear explanation of the dangers of a fait accompli scenario. So can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, Senator, happy to do that. Essentially, given the anti-access area denial capabilities that China now possesses, if they are able to achieve a lodgment on Taiwan, we will not have the kind of air superiority, for example, that we've had in things like the Gulf War in the last 20 years. And so it will be much harder to essentially eject Chinese forces from Taiwan once they land there than it would be to stop them coming across the straits to begin with. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible to dislodge them, but it will be a tougher fight. So my own view is we want to develop the kinds of capabilities that we're pursuing in the Army, along with the rest of the joint force, to basically present a sufficiently strong deterrent force to make the Chinese continue to think twice year after year about whether they want to actually undertake that amphibious landing.
Very good. My time has expired, General. I wanted to ask you about the PACOM's 1251 report and what that means for the Army's posture in that region. So I'll give that to you as a question for the record, and I'll follow up with you about Fort Leonard Wood. Thank you both very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.